Well, good morning, everybody. Here it is. We're at the 9 o'clock hour in downtown Boca Raton, Florida. And it's Thursday, November 14th. And you hear the music in the background. Epidemic, instrumental, or royalty-free. It's not exactly the dentist office. I kind of like it. You know, it's nice music. My microphone thing here is a little. I have to check it. It's screwed into this desk, but it seems like a little tippy-whippy. I don't know. Maybe it's my imagination, but it's hanging right there. And you can see right through here, 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Let's turn down the brightness a little bit. Whoa. Yeah, now you can see this. The camera is really sensitive. It's unbelievable. So I have this phone, the iPhone, turned down, way down. You know, it's not bright enough for regular use, but you can see these numbers are tenth of a second, second. Yeah. What are you going to do? I have a little warm tea here. So, yeah, I spent like an hour and a half on the phone going over, you see that, AARP? Ugh. Yeah. I mean, they're fine. It's the United Healthcare, called in. I have Humana right now. And our medical practice that Dr. Thomas Lubin works in. We met with Dr. Thomas Lubin because one of us was not well. I think it was either Marilyn or myself. I think it was Marilyn. She needed some doxycycline and some prednisone. And he said, "Oh, by the way, we're not accepting your insurance any longer." Yep, we have cut off Humana as of the end of the year. Oh, that's nice. So that means it's 4 months, we're out on the street. So, since it's November, I told Marilyn, I said, November we're going to do it because January 1, it'll be the effective date. And, so I called, spent an hour and 45 minutes with the United Healthcare person. Sharu was her name. I had no idea what nationality she was. She had a little bit of broken English, but did a good job. So, talking about the so I, went through the insurance plans, the supplemental as opposed to the Advantage plans. I don't think I like the Advantage plans so much. I don't know. It's not the premium plans. It's kind of a mix between, you got Medicare and then you got so they share in the overall premium that they get. You get credit for, I was the kind of a guy that ran things, I had people. Could you please get our people to tell me? And then my people will talk to your people. And I don't want to do this. All right. So You guys figure it out. Just let me know which is the most advantageous. So, anyway, supplemental Plan G. Yep. I'm trying to think of what the advantages were between F and G. I have a booklet down there, and you go to page 24 and you open it up, and it shows you some things. There's a few co-pays, I think, or something like that. But Plan G for a man of my young age is $400 a month. Oof. $400 a month. You got Plan N, G, and F. And G seemed to be the most advantageous. Does not include any drug. So then you get transferred over to the drug people. And that was Shabu. And that's going to cost about $92 a month. I want the preferred plan as opposed to whatever the other plan was. Because I got a couple of like Schedule 3 drugs as opposed to Schedule 1 drugs, which means Schedule 3 are like expensive. Because I'm taking Ozempic. I'm using Ozempic, which is it's a drug that was designed to get you under 7 on your A1C, and it does some marvelous. It's unbelievable. Plus, it helps against major cardiographic events, heart attacks. So I thought that was, a nice thing to have, a nice ancillary benefit, as you might say. Yeah. Anyway, and that, and the other Schedule 3 for me is Lyrica. The generic for that is pregabalin. And, if you fill that up with that insurance, it's like, like $900. Ozempic is like $1,200 a month. But with insurance, for the whole year, so if you add up all the, the other drugs, they're included in your $92.20 monthly premium. Then you have a little copay, but the copay can't exceed $570.96 for the year. So that means the whole year would be around $1,600. And if you divide that by 12, that's $133 a month for your drug. So for Jimmy, that's $535 for Plan G with the drug plan. $500 a month. Yeah. Eesh. Well, the drug piece of that is worth it because, Marilyn I just spent $330 for Ozempic because I've used up. You're only allowed to have $5,000 per drug per year. Well, this drug costs $1,200 a month. So that's 4 months. And that means 8 months you're paying, $230. Well, you can multiply $230 by, 8. It adds up to a lot more than $133 a month on average, just the drug piece. So anyway, that seems to be, now I got to get back on the phone and do the same thing with Marilyn. See what her Plan G monthly premium will be. It'll probably be $300 because she's younger woman. But it's a laborious, have you ever done this? Have you done that? In the last 5 years, have you had this? In the last 2 years, have you ever had that? It goes on and on and on. It's like 15 minutes, like that Q&A. And if you answer yes to any one of those, then the plan is not available for you. They don't want to take people in that are, in nursing homes, and all that kind of stuff. In the last 2 years, do you presently live in a nursing home? No. If you say yes, you're done. Well, of course, I'm not, I got 2 cats watching after me. And I've already decided that if I need a little help, I'm getting the Optimus robot. Can you imagine? I'm going to take the Optimus robot down for a little training. I'm going to call him Charles. Charles, would you come? I'm going to show you how to put the trash down the trash chute. Okay? Just the bag, not you. And so we're going to pick up the trash and then come with me. And the robot can carry 50 pounds. My trash doesn't weigh 50 pounds. No. Every other day you have a bag of trash. Well, we'll get Charles. So I can be sitting on the couch and I can say, Charles, would you please take the trash and put it into the trash chute, please? And then come back here and join me for a little canasta. I mean, this thing is it's coming out next year, but not for my consumption. It'd be 2026 before that could be made available for the public. And if in the next, I'm just making up a story. In the next 6 months, if they come up, put $200 down to reserve your robot, I'd be making that reservation. You betcha, because they're going to have a rental deal. Yeah, I want to rent it. I don't want to own it. This is high technology. Because at the end of a couple of years, you turn in Charles and get another Charles, assuming that everything that I taught Charles, I can transfer over to, Charles 2, Charles 2.0. Let's do that. We have Charles 1.0 and Charles 2.0. Yeah, so every couple of years you turn them in and get a new improved model, because they're gonna, Tesla keeps improving stuff all the time. Now maybe with the hardware, it won't be such a, even with the Model Y that we have, 3 years, we turned in a Model Y, and now we have a new Model Y, which we've been driving since March 18th, I believe. So March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. 8 months. We've been driving a 2024 version of the Model Y, and the ride. Now, without taking it apart, I just driving the car. The ride is really nice compared to the one we turned in. It's smoother. It has a more luxurious feel. So Whatever that means as far as engineering, I would imagine it has everything to do with the suspension. So they improved big time the suspension in the Model Y over the last 3 years. Now, routinely, like every 2 weeks, they do software upgrades where they're constantly improving the autopilot and the full self-driving. Now, the full self-driving is actually still, they don't want to call it beta. They improved it from beta to supervised. So, which means you gotta have your hands right near the on the steering wheel, near the steering wheel, whatever. I don't know how you let the sucker drive itself if you got your hands on the steering wheel. So you kind of like have to, let it go so the steering wheel, does the turning. It is, it's kind of amazing. It's got eight new cameras. All 8 cameras are high definition cameras. If you get right up and look right up close and look into the camera with your eyeball, you can see the camera has a reddish cast to the sensor. I guess it's what is red. The lenses aren't red, but if you look into it, real close, it appears that the sensor itself has a red cast to it. So that's how you can tell if you got hardware version 4 as opposed to hardware version 3, which is a low definition, like a 750 pixel kind of an image instead of a 2000 pixel image, going horizontally across. So each frame in the high definition, it's like 3 million pixels frame. Yeah. So, oh boy. So that's what's going on with the car. There is an update, and now I understand there's another update. So they keep coming out with these updates and enhancing, different features about the full self-driving, and which is kind of nice. And it all happens, over the air. Now, since I don't have, in the garage that I presently parked the car in, which is in our multifamily building here, which houses around 200 of us, 200 doors, could be 400 people. Some people live by themselves, some people, a husband and a wife kind of thing, and, a few of them have families, kids, mid-teens, a couple maybe with real young ones, but so let's just say it's the average is 2 persons per dwelling unit. So there's 200, times 2, that's 400. So there are 400 souls in this building, and nice building. We've been in the building for 12 years, but the garage does, it's not like a garage like if you had a house, because if you had a garage that's attached to your house, we had a house in Old Floresta with a 3-car garage. Supports 2 cars plus 1 car for junk, boxes and stuff, bicycles or whatever. Anyway, so in that kind of a scenario, you're and you got a plug, let's say, that you had wired up so you can plug in your car. You would have Wi-Fi, so that overnight the software would download into your car And then one morning, when you get into your car, it says, do you want to update your software? And if you say yes, then it gives you the 2-minute warning with a clock. You know, it's almost like blast off, but it's unblast, which means in 2 minutes, your car is going to go and you can't drive it for about an hour. And I noticed the last software update took 55 minutes, according to Tesla. I didn't time it. So the software updates are getting, very complicated, comprehensive. It's quite a software experience where the car is going to drive itself and not crash into something coming at you at 70 miles an hour, because that would be the end of you. So I would always hold on to the steering wheel when I see a semi. But when you're driving like on I-75, going across the state, we had lunch in Naples one day. Next time we do something like that, we're going to stay overnight in Naples, because 2 hours is too long a drive coming back. Because if you're going to have a nice lunch in Naples, you're probably going to have a couple of glasses of wine or something. And then you're a little, you get a little tired when you've had a larger than normal lunch, coupled with a couple of glasses of wine. So, I don't want to do that again. So I told Marilyn, I said, if we're going to drive somewhere for lunch, find us a hotel also, because I don't want any of us to have to drive back. Now, with that full self-driving software, it, in theory, could take you back, but it's not quite ready for that yet. So, that's that's where we're coming. We are coming to the point where the car could take you home, and you don't. But it's not. That's not ready yet, and the state of Florida hasn't approved it yet. But it will, and it's going to happen. And I'll bet you it's going to happen. Between now and 6 months from now. I just have a feeling by March of 2025, that software has got to remove the word supervised, because they've been working on this for a long time, and ever since we got our first Tesla, which is 4 years ago, they were saying, "Oh yeah, it's coming out in 65 days. Oh yeah, absolutely, by the end of the year." Well, this is 4 years ago, by the end of the year. 3 years ago, by the end of the year. 2 years ago, maybe by June. Well, maybe by the end of the year. I mean, it's, they're working on it like crazy. And obviously, what do you call it? Elon Musk is great at coming up with the plan. He waves his arm and gets those engineers and hires a few of them, and then has to hire 10 more or whatever. So he's a great innovator, but he's not real good at forecasting how long it takes to do something. At least not with full self-driving. So, and I know they started over again, and then they did this neural network stuff, whatever the heck that means. And, so the software updates are coming fast and furious. They're bigger ones, apparently, because instead of taking 25 minutes to do the installation of the software, it's taking 55 minutes. And remember, this is software that's already downloaded into the system. So this is just, taking the downloaded software and modifying or replacing, I don't know, the onboard software, to manage everything about the car. There's not, it's not only the autopilot. The software does everything else. I mean, it actuates the brakes if you touch the brake pedal, which actually you rarely do anything with a brake pedal, because it's 1 foot driving. If anybody know, and in case you don't know what that means, have you ever been in a golf cart? You ever driven a golf cart? Well, that's basically 1 foot driving, because you push down on the pedal to get yourself going on the fairway path or whatever to get your ball. And when you're getting closer to your ball, you lift up your foot a little bit, and the golf cart, begins to slow down, almost to a complete stop, assuming you're not on some kind of a hill, and of course, then you step on the brake pedal, and it locks itself, so that then you get out of the golf cart and go around to your golf bag and pull your golf club out of the bag, and then you walk over to your ball, and then you address your ball. Basically say, hello, ball. Anyway, so with a golf cart, you get an idea of what single foot driving means, is because now in the case of a golf cart, when you lift up on the pedal, that means that the battery is not energizing the motor to move it forward. And the golf cart tends to, brake itself, because braking meaning slowing down, because the wheels, they have these real pillowy wheels, the big fat wheels. But they're designed to run on golf carts, golf paths, golf cart paths, and the grass. And I always thought when you roll over on the grass, it's just the fact that you got these pillowy wheels on the grass that makes it slow down. And I think that's true. It has nothing to do with regenerative braking, because the wheels don't have, they're not connected, to the motors to the point where if you lift up on the wheel, on the brake pedal, would it put energy back in the batteries? I think the answer to that is no. So, but anyway, in a car, the single foot driving means if you press down on the accelerator, the Tesla goes forward. If you let up on the accelerator pedal, then the car would coast. If you lift up further on the accelerator pedal, and still have your foot on the pedal, but if you lift it up even further, then that is regenerative braking, where the wheels that are rotating because you're coasting and because you're not looking to go faster, the motors become generators rather than motors that are going to project you forward. So that's called regenerative braking, which means your forward inertia is slowing down and energy is going back in the batteries. Now I have or had an app that actually calculated all that, and we actually, our regenerative braking accounted to a 13% benefit. 13% of the energy went back into the battery when we lifted up on the accelerator pedal, and we rarely use the brake pedal. I mean, I would rest, my driving tells me that when we're stopped at a stop sign or stopped at a traffic light, a red light, then I rest my foot on the brake pedal. so that I can prevent the car from jumping forward. I don't know why it would jump forward, but if I have my foot on the brake pedal, then I can be assured it won't jump forward. Because you got battery and you got motors, and what if the software had a fart, and all of a sudden, I'm being crazy, and the car jumped forward. Well, you don't want to jump forward, when you're in the middle of an intersection. So whenever I'm fully stopped, I always rest my foot on the brake pedal just to make sure that when I want it stopped, I want it not moving. And the one sure way of that is to put your foot on the brake pedal. Even though the brakes had nothing to do with slowing you down, so you're not really wearing out the brake pads. It's almost like a parking brake, but it's with your foot, instead of having your right hand pull up put it in, you pull up on this thing, and then that brakes the rear wheels. No, it's not. Anyway, so that's what the regenerative braking and all that's about. So we gained about 13% of the battery just through regenerative braking, which, if you just say 10%, so if you got a 300-mile battery, in a sense, you're getting a 330-mile battery, because 10% of the energy is being put into the battery without you having to charge it, because the regenerative part of the braking tended to charge the battery, in this case 13%. So, so that's like a 40-mile gain. So if you were going to get 300 miles of range on your battery, assuming you ran it down to zero, which they don't want you to do, they don't want you to run it down past 5%, actually. Everything turns red when it gets below 10%. So let's say you don't go below 10%. But if you're getting 40 miles, you're getting, a 13% benefit. That would be, roughly 40 miles. Let's just say 30 miles. You're getting 30 miles of added range that you wouldn't have had if you use your brakes all the time, rather than using the 1 foot pedal kind of scenario, which means you have to learn. So what does that mean? So you have to learn how much to lift up your foot, and the braking distance with regard to regenerative braking. Because if you lift your foot off the accelerator pedal all the way, you're going to have maximum regenerative braking. Well, if you're going 50 miles an hour, how much distance do you need to be between your car and the cars in front of you? Let's say you're coming up to a red light, and you gently lift your foot almost all the way up, meaning you're not accelerating. How much distance will it take to bring the vehicle to a stop just using the regenerative braking? Well, you learn that by driving with experience. There's no rule book on that. It's not in the instruction book. So you have to learn, how much, how effective is that regenerative braking in stopping and slowing the forward motion of your vehicle to the point where it'll stop, rather than smash into the back end of the car in front, that you're coming up upon with a red light. Now, of course, you can, if you evaluate that braking distance, you can always, put your foot on the brake pedal and use the brake pedal to assist your stopping so that you don't crash into the guy in front of you. There have been a couple of occasions where, the light changed quickly, and the guy in front of you, he waited to the last second before he started braking. So maybe I or the car didn't realize the braking distance would have been shorter than normal. So then you just move your foot over to the brake pedal and use. So then you got a combined effect. You got the regenerative braking because you're pedal up all the way because your foot is actually on the other pedal, and you're using the brake pads to slow you down. The rest of the way, the rest of the slowing the vehicle down to a stop. It's really quite interesting how all these things can happen at the same time. Yeah. So anyway, that's part of the first couple of weeks of learning how to drive a Tesla. That's what you're evaluating. How to evaluate the regenerative braking in the stopping distance that's required. From a 60 mile an hour scenario to a 40 mile an hour scenario. So if you're cruising down the road at 45 miles an hour, and then traffic stops because there's a red light, the light turns red, so you have to evaluate how much stopping distance you have, based on where you are on the road and how far the distance is, either to the car in front of you or to the, just the white line that delineates where you need to bring your car to, because you'd be first in line with the red light. Does that make sense? Hard to explain, but I think I explained it. Yeah, you can always call in 561-416-1100 and ask me a question, or correct me if I said it wrong. I tend to be a little precise with my language, so I should be able to make that happen. Oops, that didn't work. Yeah, we got these stupid passwords everywhere. Can't do anything without passwords. All right, so we have a couple of I got Trump came up. Trump loves to command the airwaves, so he doesn't. He got elected a while ago, and everyone knows this November date was coming. And he hears people saying things and all that, and he has people that listen for him also. So you combine all that together, he's had some time between, getting elected, having the votes all counted. I mean, here we are. We're a week and a half. We're 10 days from the election, and there's still, like 13 House races undetermined because California and some other states are still hand counting, some of these ballots. Pennsylvania, I think they just called one. Jeez. Crazy. So, anyway, Trump has had some time to think about who he'd want in his cabinet. There's 16 cabinet positions, and so he's picked his people, but he doesn't tell all 16 at once. And of course, he's had his transition team interviewing the people that he has thought that he'd like to have on his cabinet, and they secretly have been vetting these people to the degree they can, and to remain, autonomous. So every day he releases, or he causes his team to release the names of one, two, or three more cabinet people. So yesterday, was Marco Rubio and several others. Yeah. Anyway, so he's got some headlines. Pete Hegseth. Pete who? Who the hell is he? Secretary of the oh my God, Secretary of Defense Hegseth? Egg what? Egghead? What? What's his name? Who the hell is he and where did he come from? Obviously not part of, the deep state. All these people seem to nominate each other. It's like a constant recycle bin of these relics that end up running these things for these politicians. Well, Hegseth is a 20-year Army veteran. He's been on Fox for 10. So if he's in the Army for 20, actually more than 20, and he's on Fox on the couch, in the morning shows, for 10 years, so that's 30 years at least. So he's got to be around 50. So he's got a little gray hair coming up around his temples if he's not dyeing his hair. Anyway, so Kristi Noem, Homeland Security. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense. John Ratcliffe, I've done a little expando here on the newspaper. He's CIA Director. Nominees. And Michael Waltz, National Security Advisor. All these positions require Senate confirmation. Then, of course, you got this guy. Yeah, I don't think this is a Senate confirmation position. This office in the government that's going to have something to do with government cuts. Elon and Vivek. That would be my definition of the odd couple. Yep. So, over the last few days, these names have been popping up. Yeah. That's why I had that picture there. Now, as far as the congressional races, I believe the Senate is done. Yeah. Now, you got one guy that's hasn't conceded yet, Pennsylvania Senate seat that flipped. And so that's a work in progress. So let's look at the congressional as of 11 o'clock last night and this morning. The GOP now has 218 people that have won their elections for their districts, and Democrats have 208. But they have 5 more races in which they're leading in, and they've had a net loss of 1 seat. I'm doing an expando on this graphic I produced. Here's the GOP. They have 218. That check mark means that the 218 number is what you need to have a majority. So if they had 217 and you got 218, that's 436. That's how that adds up. 435, I believe, is the correct total number of seats in Congress. And all the seats aren't, all the races haven't completed yet. There's still 4 more races in which the GOP is leading in. So we can go down here and say, okay, what does that look like? So we'll go to my next graphic. Yeah, there we go. So here's the 22 seats are toss-ups. There's the 22. but a lot of them have been called already. Like Arizona District 1, that's already been won by 4% points, with 99% of the vote counted. So what's the 1%? Some of the provisional ballots, some of the mail-in ballots, that they had to research further because the signature didn't quite match up, or I don't know. Anyway, so here's one GOP race, 94% of the vote counted, and they're up by 3 points. There's another California District 13, 74%. Can you believe? It's 10 days after the election, and they've kind of set, and 26% of the vote has not been counted yet. What the hell are they doing? Anyway, GOP is leading by 2 points for that seat that has not been called yet. California 13. All right, we're going to go down the list here. Here's another one. California 45. Now, they have 93% of the precincts reporting, and the GOP candidate is ahead by 0.1. There's Iowa. GOP candidate is up by 0.2 with 99% of the vote counted. So that should be getting ready to be called, and probably in their favor. And that's the end of. That's what when we said they're leading in 4 races, that's what the races are. So if they won all 4 of them, that'd be 222. That'd be 222 seats. Now remember, we've got 2 or 3 House seats that are going to be given up because they'll be resigning from the position they just got elected to because they're going to be in the cabinet. You can't be both. So if you're going to be a cabinet official, now you may wait until confirmation before you resign from Congress. Now, Matt Gaetz resigned right away because the House was getting ready to issue its report. There's an ethics probe into Matt Gaetz, and I think he resigned quickly so that report would not get issued. It was supposedly written and ready for issuance, and it would happen maybe at the end of the week or next week. And, so maybe that was a ploy just to, give him an excuse code for resigning. And then, Trump would put him in another position in the administration that didn't require confirmation. Yep. All right. Here's part of what could be considered. Let's put my visual images back on there. Then we can see this. This is the canisters, the truck, the delivery method, where this is aimed towards the bad guys that are launching missiles at Israel, or Ukraine in this example. How Trump will tackle, the flashpoints regarding the Ukrainian war with Russia. In the meantime, they've deployed some of these missile systems. So if missiles start to come towards Ukraine, these devices would interfere with a successful missile deployment. Then this missile goes after the other missile, and explodes just in the vicinity of the other missile. I understand. It doesn't have to crash into the other missile to trigger, the explosive charge that's contained in the missile. It has onboard computing equipment, so if the missile is close to the target, then it'll explode. So, and that's how those suckers work. And Trump wants to have similar missile systems in the United States. Why shouldn't we have, the Iron Dome, so to speak, which is what Israel calls all these missile installations that have been established all around the borders of Israel. And they've engineered their protection system, and we basically manufacture them to their specs, which they may be manufactured, by, companies like Raytheon or Boeing itself. I think they have a missile system that produces extremely nice offensive or defensive, Iron Dome missile systems. The presumption is they're defensive because when the bad guys launch a missile, they can detect, what the flight paths are. Meanwhile, your defensive unit is specifying, a weird course, a strange course, to try to trick the defensive missile into missing it, even though it only has to explode close to it, but it wouldn't be close enough, and what they say is, you can only be wrong once, and then the missile comes down on your head, and that's the end of you. So, you want to be, when you want to engage your missile, that's a good tool to have. Yeah. Yep. There we go. People are getting in the right positions. There we go. All right. Tesla is celebrating. They made 1,000 Powerwalls in a day. So they're basically, the Powerwall is, something that might be 4 foot wide and 5.5 feet tall, and it contains a whole bunch of, lithium batteries, so to speak, and a charging situation, the electronics for charging, and the electronics for converting the voltage of the batteries into alternating current, like 220, for powering your house, assuming you needed your house energized by the Powerwall, which would, of course, be the case. So anyway, they're trying to get more and more. So there's a Powerwall. They actually have one next to these guys. And then these guys have POWERWALL. So they're holding little symbols there to show. Here's a guy that's holding an A. So if you're wondering what that A is, and there's a guy holding an L, another guy holding an L. He makes a holy hell. So those are the Powerwalls, and they're, they've all gathered together to have a picture taken. These are all the guys that, boys and girls that are super managing the robotics for putting these power walls together. Yep. What would government efficiency look like if Elon Musk gets his way? Yeah, well, that's an answer question. Gabbard's past could complicate U.S. Senate confirmation. I read into her past. That's all a bunch of, she held her hand on some kind of Hawaiian Bible thing rather than the regular, King's English, Holy Bible. So they're going to say she's part of a cult. The enemy will say that. I don't think the Republicans will say that. Anyway, so, the president, short of, putting the enemy in, members of the enemy in his cabinet, the president is entitled to have people in the cabinet that he chooses, period. And, if there are huge ethics charges against somebody where they're not fit for office because they're just not fit, to be in office because they've, they're running, underage sexual rings. I don't even know what to call it. Some weird things like that. These people should be confirmed, assuming the positive. Here's the skyline of Tampa. I was officed in that building right there. That's the GTE building. I was on the 30-something floor of that building. I remember, 17th floor. And this building didn't exist when I was in Tampa a few years ago. This is a round building. NCNB was in that one. This looks like a toilet roll. Yeah. And I love Tampa. It's a real young city. Average age was young. It had a SAC command base. Had a major university. Had a professional football team. These are all things that stabilize a city that has all kinds of, and then you have all the rest of the commercial, industrial stuff that a progressive city, has. But when you have the, major sports teams are there, and you got major military installations are there, major universities, so all those things coupled together with everything else that has to do, with the vibrant city, makes that a super vibrant city. Anyway, we moved to Tampa in the early 80s when the residential interest rates were around 14. Woo. Yeah, these people are pitching about 6%. How about 14? Yo, you're getting spoiled with the 2 and 3% rates. All right, so here's some stories about things more not quite so dramatic. Apple Watch Series 10. I happen to have one right here. Apple Watch Series 10. I got a dark color. Looks black. With the let's see, I can push that down and slide it over one. There we go. So this tells me it's November 14th. It's 10 o'clock, 10:02. My blood sugar, this is an old reading because my blood sugar thing that you stick on your arm has expired. You only get 2 weeks out of it. Whoops. But the other interesting little thing is you can see here, which you can't see, but I can see, is it says that the range in my car, I got 161 miles worth of energy in my fuel tank. I refer to it as a fuel tank rather than a battery. Because a battery sounds like, a battery, you pull it out and put it in. No. You have a fuel tank in which you push energy into it, just like you have a fuel tank and you push, gasoline into it. That's a form of energy once it gets ignited. Electric energy, you push down on the pedal. Anyway, so the energy in my car can take me 161 miles. So it's they're about a 55% of fullness. That means 45% has been used, so to speak. That's how the battery. That's how the world. That's how you have to change your vernacular a little bit when you speak. When you have an electric car, because you don't have gasoline splashing around in your fuel tank. You got all these little jiggy-tacky, plus signs. Yep, you got electric energy that's stored in the chemistry of the lithium ion, the world of ions and lithium, and moving from the anode to the cathode and all this business. Yeah. Cathode development is apparently where the rubber hits the road with regard to fuel cell battery development. It's the development of the anode and the cathode and the chemistry and whether there's a little sodium in there or not, or they're experimenting with all kinds of different metals and other inorganics. A dry solid state battery where there's no fluid, so to speak, for the ions to move from the anode, cathode, going back and forth depending on whether you're charging it or whether you're discharging it. Yeah. So you got the anode and the cathode, and you have the stuff in between, and whether it's suspended in an electrolyte or not. If it's not in an electrolyte, then that's considered a solid state battery. And then it moves between the plates. And that's where my knowledge of that topic expires. The solid state technology has just come to fore, and I have to do a lot more reading about the solid state battery before I can understand it and attempt to simplify it so that we, don't have, a 3-hour lecture on the topic. I want to condense it down into a 3-minute conversation on the topic. I'm not prepared to do that yet with solid state batteries. Excuse me. There's the Apple Watch. This guy's all excited about titanium, the Series 10 titanium, and the difference between titanium and aluminum. The colors are a little bit different. Titanium is a very hard metal. It's harder than stainless steel. And when it's natural color, it looks, slightly on the grayish side compared to polished stainless steel. I like the black titanium. So it's some kind of a black finish that's applied and polished in this titanium shell that the watch sits in. It has a sapphire cover, the cover glass, so to speak. But it's all electric, and all these measurements come through. 55%, it's 92 inside the car, and the outside temperature is 82. I can see that from my watch. That didn't work. I'm trying to get a print screen of it. You have to. Oh, you got to press that and that. Bingo! I got a print screen. So now we'll see when it comes through. And I'll be able to see it at the bottom of the screen. And it should come up any second. Bingo, there it is. There we go. That's my watch face. I just did you got to press this button and this button simultaneously, and that triggers a print screen. So I did a print screen of my watch face, and there it is. See, there's the 55%. If I pull down on this, where it push up, it says I took that picture November 14th at 10:07 a.m. There you go. It's 10:08 on that clock. I don't know if I have a clock over here now. Yeah, the battery is out on that. So that's how you get a print screen on your Apple Watch. I don't know if you knew that you could do that. You just press those two buttons at the same time. There's a little button in there, and then you got this digital crown. You have to press those at the same instant, and you get a print screen. Just like touching the top button and the side button on an iPad, or the opposite buttons on an iPhone. Yep, produces the print screen. And there we go. You see Model Y, 561-416-1100. The 00 didn't make it because there's too many characters for the Apple Watch to disclose them. I need to either cut off the boldness or decrease the font size so that you don't get that ... right there. Because that's 00, as we all know. 416-1100. Yeah. That's been my phone number for 20 years or so, ever since mobile phoning was occurring. Just happen to have. Oops. Oh, never mind. You've seen it before. I have my brick down there. A constant reminder of how magical these devices are compared to the brick that I had, 20 years ago, which I thought was a marvelous piece of technology. Transmitter, receiver, transceiver that you can hold in your hand, works in the cell system. You have your phone number in there like it's like a real phone. Where you had landlines in your house and you had a cell phone. It looked like this brick. They called it a brick. It's almost the size of a brick. It's heavy. It's a couple pounds. Yeah. Nickel cadmium battery back here, which is deader than a doornail. You got to recharge them every couple of days. They have a self-discharging nature to them. Remember the memory effect? If you charge it up to 60% and then discharge it, and charge it back up to 60% and then you discharge it down to 0, and you keep on doing that, that 60% barrier then becomes a barrier which you can't get further from. So you don't want to You don't want to keep discharging and charging from a particular spot. You want to go up to 95% and down to 10%. Up to 95% or 98%. Don't stop short of 60% and then charge it again. Because then you charge, and then you come up to 60%. Because then the memory effect leads you so that the battery can't get past that 60%. Yeah, that was the problem with nickel cadmium. You had to discharge and charge all the way. You go all the way to 99%, and you discharge all the way to 1%. Don't stop short and keep charging back from 60%, because you'll never get past 60 to the other 40%. Yeah, that's the problem with nickel cadmium. You have to charge it all the way up and then discharge it all the way down. Yeah. Yeah. With the lithium-ion batteries, you don't have memory effect. Anyway, so we got a print screen of my watch face. That's how you do that. Anyone can do it. You press in the digital crown, which expand over there, and that side button that's kind of flush with the watch, which brings up your apps. That button. There's a name for that button. I don't know. So anyway. So the president has not only got the popular vote, he has a 4-seat majority in the Senate. So that's the end of Schumer. He becomes a minority leader instead of the majority leader. Thune just got elected to be the majority leader of the Senate. A fine gentleman from South Dakota. How about that? You got Nome from South Dakota. That has just been, let's see, what did she get? HRS, Health and Human Services. Yeah. Okay, here's Marco Rubio, son of Cuban exiles, born here in the United States, vice chairman of the Select Committee on Intelligence, a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. This is in the Senate. Known on Capitol Hill as a foreign policy hawk who favors U.S. alliances overseas, including NATO. Pushed for taking a hard line against China, and has targeted TikTok as something that shouldn't be allowed to be used in the United States because it is Chinese Communist Party owned or under the control of, and we don't want that TikTok information going back to China. However, it could use whatever data it could get from the use of the TikTok app. I don't know enough about that to talk intelligently about it, so I'll just skip by. Another starred point, he has warned China, Iran, and North Korea and Russia against, the U.S. interest and these guys ganging up on us, in a sense. Anyway, that's Marco Rubio. We met him years ago. Nice young man. Compared to our age, he's a nice young man. Yeah, this is just a panel that came up on the Fox News this morning, so I thought I'd share it with you. They expect his path to be relatively easy to go through the Senate confirmation process. We have to figure out what these appointments that could be made, between sessions. You have what is known as the recess appointments, and how some of these more controversial appointments could be pushed through during the recess period. There's a couple of week or a month period when the president and the House and the Senate are all essentially asleep, and you can make recess appointments while people are doing other things. This one time, every 4 years, where that recess appointment period can be used to put through acts or laws, and it has to do with appointments, political appointments. When you win elections, you can put in cabinet people that you decide, subject to confirmation by the Senate. And some of that process is expedited during the recess appointment period, which I think is coming soon, let's say. So here's Congress. The GOP was successful in having a majority of Congress and the Senate. So this is like the dream team come true for Trump, because now he's ready to go. He's got his all these people that are projected to go in his cabinet, subject to senatorial confirmation. Got to pick all the proper words. When you're in this government business, there's a whole new world. Yeah. So far, the Senate is 53-47. Forget as of, that won't change, because I don't think there are any races that are uncalled. Trump urges the Senate to allow recess appointments. So apparently there's a permission thing. Trump urges the Senate to allow recess appointments. So apparently there's some kind of a permission thing that goes on between the executive office and the Senate office, so that they can slip through a couple of recess appointments. And there's a whole bunch of stuff you probably have to do to qualify for such a thing. So that's the trials and tribulations of confirmation hearings. Thune, willing to grind through confirmations. Thune, his quote is, willing to grind through confirmations. All right, well, I guess the question of which one do you put through, first, second, third, there is a thought, this is just coming from yours truly, that the thought of Matthew Gaetz being the Attorney General is like a gimme. In other words, all right, well, I'll let you have that one. We'll pull him and we'll put someone else in there, so that way you don't have to get 100% of what you want. You can get 92% of what you want, and, just change out Gaetz for someone a little more reasonable. And they've got a full inventory of people Matthew Whitaker was one of the guys I thought. Let's see if I can find Matthew Whitaker's face here so you can see what he looks like. He would have been my pick. I never thought of, this guy that's a congressman over on the west coast of Florida. I'm looking for Matthew Whitaker. He was the acting Attorney General when Trump was going through this I use these pictures to remind me of what I want to talk about. And I know I captured a picture of Matthew Whitaker because everyone wants to know what he looks like. Ooh, and I grabbed it, but these are looking at 5 at a time. And I know this may not be all the pictures. Let's do favorites. I gotta go through this thing again. See if you can find Matthew Whitaker. I'm looking for him. Yeah. There's Holman. There's my pill regimen. Right there in the middle, APOP 300. That's what I take. 300 milligrams. Pregabalin. Take that 3 times a day. They say, well, you're going to have to get special permission because our recommended daily consumption of that is 2 a day. I just want it shown. This is a chemical. Yep. There's the president, vice president, and the first lady. Yeah, a classy bunch, I must say. This guy's a total hockey puck. This guy Walls. Minnesota. I mean, there's such a difference in the quality of the candidates. I don't know. To me, it's pretty obvious. All right, so the Secret Service has now dispatched these electric dogs that have electric control. Looks like a boom microphone, everything, and this electric dog walks all the way around the perimeter of Mar-a-Lago. And the guy sits at a control station. They might have, let's say they have 3 of these. It's a big place. It's 56 or 57 acres. It goes from the ocean to the intercoastal all the way, front to back. Yep. Anyway, somewhere in here is Matthew Whitaker. Can't seem to find him. I'll find him. Pete Hegseth. I thought he was pretty exotic character. And who becomes more exciting? This House of Representative guy. All right, I can't find him. Heck with it. I'll find him, later and make special mention of where he is. See, the one thing is I have these dates in the picture array that you see here over on your right side of your viewing device. And so I'll figure out what day I produce that image and then I'll be able to find it a little easier. I was showing Marilyn, this right here, that some chefs this year are saying, hey, how about a nice prime rib instead of a turkey? You know, a real good prime rib that's been properly aged and all that kind of stuff. And brined, you know, you brine it with some fluids and some seasoning, and you slow cook it real slow, like your oven is set to 270, not 350 or something. That's when you have a red middle and the outside is burnt. You want it red from coast to coast. Yeah. And if you allow these people to bully you, they'll get you to cook it too fast so the oven can be freed up for someone else to use. If you're in a common area, which I'm not. But I'm all in favor of the slow cooking. The 270 degree temperature. Remember, Trump, one of his election things was, a campaign promise, I think we call it, is no more sanctuary cities. Now I'm wondering how enforceable that is. Well, you know, there's the Trump, you know, Trump has this theory that, if you can't win by just normal competition, put a tariff on it. If you're an international country with international products, either on the consumption side or producing the targeted campaign of whatever you're trying to win, whatever that topic is, you can. There's two ways to deal with it. You either so if Trump says there are no more sanctuary cities, how can you push these Democratic governors, like the Illinois governor, Pritzker, says, no, I ain't pushing me around. Well, you know what he can say? He can say, okay, no more federal aid goes to, Indiana, for example. Or Illinois, I meant. Illinois. Yeah. So some of these Democratic governors are just going to get whacked because, they're making promises they can't necessarily keep because they don't have all the resources. All the resources isn't what we have running the country. We're running on, 3 cylinders, 5 cylinders, 4 cylinders. Not enough cylinders. You got this mayor, Brandon Johnson. He's a blue city mayor that's got a huge immigration issue. Immigrants laying all over the streets, essentially soiling the streets with their excrement, needles, smells, the smell of feces and urine in the streets in our finest cities in California. Places we used to go openly. Now you almost need a security detail. Yeah. So we'll have to get through that. That'll be interesting to see how the Trumper pounds some of these, governors that are going to give Trump pushback. Well, he has the power of the pen, and he can tell Congress, no more federal aid. No more, forget whether you want to shoot that sucker or not. All right. Okay. 1 hour, 31 minutes. It's 10:32. I signed on at real close to 9 o'clock this morning. I'm trying to hold true to my 9 o'clock promise. And I'm doing a pretty good job of it so far. This is the first week where I've done daily broadcasts starting at 9 sharp. And as you know, I start off my broadcast with, this symbol right there, whatever day it is, and let Epidemic play through, for about 30 seconds to be the header of my broadcast, like that. You hear it? I turn it down when I'm talking, but when I'm not talking, it sounds like that. So with that, I'm going to turn the music up a tad so that you can hear it. It's a beautiful instrumental. And you all have a great day. See you tomorrow.